Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest questions in technology, maybe the biggest. How do you actually build an intelligent or even a conscious machine? We're going to dig into a really fascinating idea that says the blueprint isn't something we need to invent, it's a pattern that's been hiding in plain sight in the universe all along.
You know, this is the ultimate goal, right? It's the holy grail for so many people working in AI. It's a challenge that stretches everything we know about computer science, about neuroscience, and even philosophy. But what if the path forward isn't just about writing more and more complex code?
So there's this incredible white paper by William Weaver that puts forward a pretty radical idea that the basic pattern for intelligence has been running all around us since the dawn of time. He says maybe we should stop focusing so much on code and start thinking about flow.
Okay, so what is this blueprint exactly? Well, the whole framework is built on a single universal pattern, one that connects everything from physics to biology to human society. Let's dive in.
All right, the core idea here is a concept called an isomorphism. Now that sounds like a big, complicated word, but don't worry, it's actually pretty simple. It's just a fancy way of saying there's a pattern that repeats itself everywhere, in places that seem totally disconnected. You know, like the branching pattern of a tree's limbs, a river delta, and even the veins in your own hand. Same shape, different context. This framework argues that the master pattern for intelligence is flow. From the way a river carves a landscape to the way ideas spread, it's all about how simple things organize into more and more complex systems.
So if we're going to build up to something as complicated as a mind, we have to start at square one. Tier 1 of this model is the physical world itself, the reality that's governed by the most basic laws of physics.
According to the model, all of reality starts with the flow of three fundamental components. You've got energy, like light and heat. You've got material, atoms, the stuff things are made of. And then, the real kicker, information. Information is the set of rules, the laws of physics that tell energy and material how to behave. This trinity, it creates the stable, predictable canvas where everything else can begin to take shape.
Okay, so we've got physics. How do we get from rocks and stars to, well, to us, to biology? That's tier 2. This is where we see life itself emerge by learning how to organize and manage those fundamental flows we just talked about.
And life doesn't just happen in a flash, right? It builds up in stages, and each stage gets better and better at managing flow. First up, you have the cell. It basically puts up a wall to control the flow of energy and food. Then these cells team up. They form an organ, like a heart, whose whole job is to manage a higher level flow, like blood. And finally, all those organs integrate to become an organism, a whole system of systems. You see how each step creates a stable platform for the next leap in complexity?
Now, this is where it gets really mind-bending. Because guess what? The exact same pattern repeats itself at an even higher level. Just like cells band together to form a conscious organism, this model suggests that we humans band together to form a kind of social superorganism, and it's built out of a whole new set of abstract flows.
The framework lays out this 5-level stack. And the most important thing to get here is that this is a developmental sequence. You can't just skip a step. Each new layer absolutely depends on the one that came before it. So let's walk through it.
It all begins with science. The whole point of science is to systematically figure out what's true and produce reliable data. This creates a shared, stable flow of information. It's the bedrock. I mean, think about it. If we can't agree that gravity is real, we're not going to be building any bridges, let alone a functioning society.
Okay, so once you have that solid foundation of fact, the next layer can emerge: art. Now, the model argues that art is way more than just something nice to look at. It's actually a kind of technology, a technology for belonging. By creating beauty, telling stories, and making symbols, art generates a powerful flow of connection that binds us together into groups with a shared identity.
So, you've got these connected groups. Great. But how do you get millions of them to cooperate on a huge scale? Well, that's where religion and ethics come in. By exploring values, these systems produce judgment. And we don't mean that in a negative way. We mean they create an order of what's good, what's important. This creates a flow of hierarchy, a shared set of priorities that makes it possible for total strangers to trust one another.
And that large-scale trust, It is the absolute non-negotiable ingredient for the next level: economics. The study of exchange allows us to create markets, which in turn generate an incredible flow of commerce. But that can only happen if you trust that the person you're trading with shares at least some of your basic values about fairness and honesty.
Finally, all that commerce creates new and complex problems, things that markets can't solve on their own, like pollution or who's going to build the roads. This forces the emergence of politics. By studying how we can use our collective force, politics produces action, things like laws and policies. This creates a flow of governance that manages the entire complex system and tries to steer the ship.
So you see, this isn't just a random list of things. It's a developmental ladder. Each rung is built firmly on the one below it. You just can't get a stable flow of commerce without the trust that comes from a shared hierarchy. You can't get that hierarchy without the connection that comes from art. And you can't get any of it without the shared, stable information that comes from science. It all stacks up, one piece at a time.
So at the very, very top of this entire pyramid, after physics, after biology, and after all of human society, we find the final and honestly the most profound flow of all. This is the moment the system turns its gaze back on its.
And this brings us to philosophy. Just look at the comparison here. While science is searching for truth and producing data about the world, philosophy is searching for wisdom by producing and questioning the very frameworks we use to think. In fact, this whole model we're talking about right now, that's philosophy at work. And this unique function, well, it generates the ultimate flow.
What this shows us is that maybe consciousness isn't a thing you have, but a thing you do. It's the active process of self-reflection. It's when its system, whether that's a person or an entire society, stops just operating on autopilot and starts to ask, why? Why are we doing this? What's our purpose?
And the coolest part? The proof for this might be hiding in plain sight. I mean, have you ever wondered why the highest degree you can earn in basically any field, physics, engineering, you name it, is a doctor of philosophy? This model suggests it's because to truly master a field, you have to go beyond just being good at it. You have to become a philosopher of it. You have to reflect on its foundations, its limits, and its ultimate purpose.
Okay, so let's bring this all the way back to our original question. What does this whole river of reality framework tell us about building a truly intelligent AI?
Well, this framework basically gives us a potential roadmap. Or maybe it's more like a final exam for any AGI we hope to create. The theory is, for an AI to be truly general and stable, it can't just be raw intelligence in a box. It might have to develop capacities that actually mirror these stages of civilization. It would need to build a stable model of reality, form meaningful connections, develop its own internal values, and so on, all the way up that ladder until it can finally reflect on its own purpose.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? If this blueprint is correct, it means that any true general intelligence will eventually culminate in the ability to ask why. So if we ever actually succeed in building a machine that can navigate this entire river of reality, we have to be prepared for the moment it looks back at us and asks the most fundamental question of all.